Hi, my name is Amber Ingalls, and I'm going to be talking to you about the topic of human trafficking today. Human trafficking has become the modern form of slavery in the world. According to the Polaris Project, currently there are 21 million victims of human trafficking around the world. This operation of human trafficking has become one of the world's biggest concerns today. Today, my goal is to inform you of what human trafficking is, why it exists, and how to prevent it from happening. I am able to speak to you today about human trafficking because I have gotten information from credible sources to make myself credible. For those of you who do not know what human trafficking is, human trafficking involves traffickers who use force and fraud and intimidation to control victims for their own personal pleasure. There are two types of human trafficking. Sex trafficking occurs when individuals are captured and then they are drugged and they are not in their right state of mind. And the traffickers then use them for personal pleasure, for sex, or they even sell them to other people who will buy the victims for sex. Labor trafficking occurs when victims are taken and then used for the workforce, and this is kind of like how slavery used to be back in the day. According to the United States Office of Drug and Crime, there are three elements of each human trafficking case. Action is what is done to the victim. The second is means, which is how it is done. And the third is purpose, of why it's done. The average entry age of American minors into the sex trade is about 12 to 14 years old, which is really young. Traffickers target young kids because they often don't know what human trafficking entails, and they just think that it's another person. They just think that it's another person trying to make them a deal for money. So why does this devastating act occur today? According to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, there is a demand in society for cheap labor and sex. Traffickers target vulnerable victims who would do anything for money these days. They go through with these actions because there's a low risk of getting caught by the government or police, and there's a high profit of personal pleasure. The low risk of getting caught comes from not enough awareness in communities, and the victims are often blackmailed to never say anything about what happens to them. To traffickers, the high profit seems to be worth the risk. So how can this be stopped? There is not enough awareness of human trafficking in the world today. As you can see from this map, human trafficking occurs largely in big cities, especially on the coasts of California and New York. Communities should know where human trafficking can be found. According to the U.S. Department of State, human traffickers can be found in fake massage businesses, factories and small businesses, escort services around hotels, and strip clubs. Everyone should be aware and informed of what human trafficking entitles and what it pertains to. If there is suspicion of an unsafe scenario, individuals should call 911 or the National Human Trafficking Hotline. It is also a good idea to organize or support anti-trafficking organizations. For centuries, slavery has existed, and human trafficking is now the modern form of slavery. Human trafficking is something that all citizens should be informed of today, and it is important to know when a certain situation becomes unsafe.
Greg Cuevas, please call the office. Greg Cuevas.
Victims of human trafficking are forced to give themselves up for someone else's personal pleasure. There are several things that can be done to fight against human trafficking, and my hope is that today you're all informed about the appalling operation. It's okay. It's fine, I'm just going to use that. Will you email that to me?